And we're live. There we go. We're back.
All right. Well, let me just start out with a little mea culpa. I was so excited to do this whole thing, and I called my interior decorator, trying to get something in the background. Turns out I don't have an interior decorator, so I thought, well, I'll go outside. It'll be great. I'm the Iceman. I'm in the sun, and then my phone melted. So I guess we're back at it. Mea culpa, everybody, and I appreciate you guys checking in once again.
That's all good. That's all good, buddy. The Iceman. The Iceman. So we got to tell everybody, the Iceman. You're actually making me call you the Iceman. You have the power to do that now. When we started this, I said, guys like to have a nickname or they like to go by something. I go, what do you want me to call you? You go, the Iceman.
Not my business name, not my moniker.
Yes.
I just, I have to, we got to get back to the basics, right? The Iceman cometh, brother.
That's right. The Iceman cometh. So for those that don't know, when the Iceman was just a little ice guy, he an
ice tot, if you will.
Exactly. He signed up for a pro wrestling school, and well, why don't you tell us about the time you told us that you'd like to be called the Iceman in the pro wrestling world?
Well, yeah, and I think we need to get a couple perspectives on this. I think 100%, because
we told him the answer is no, he can't be the Iceman. But let's go into the story.
I don't remember it that way specifically in my mind, in my mind's eye, as I recall. I just remember going, you know what? Because I'll tell you this much: you're 15, you want a good moniker. You want to show you're damn serious, more serious than my phone, obviously, because, if that was the Iceman, it would definitely be the fake Iceman. But I always was a big Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, right? And so I've always, I love Chuck Liddell and UFC, and I'm like, yeah, Jason, the Iceman Dialer, it's like Bret the Hitman Hart, my favorite of all time. Yeah. And I was just 15 years old and convinced, because I had written it all over my notebooks in school, that I'm the Iceman. I can't go back. I'm 15. You can't put that on your textbook, and then you can't go back. You're selling the girls, you're working the girls. It's just one of those things. Apparently, I don't really recall being told no necessarily, as I recall a gentleman by a moniker that I thought his name was T-Bone, which very meaty in its essence, obviously. Yeah. And he was very underdone because he was very raw with how he was talking to me. And it was I am the fake Iceman. And I just, he dug his heels in, I dug my heels in. And again, going back to this ballsy little thing, I'm still convinced to this day that I'm the Iceman.
Well, like I said, at the time, we kind of put up a bit of a fuss when you told us you were the Iceman. And now you're saying, I want to be known as the Iceman. I'm coming on your show. I'm going to be the Iceman. So I'm going to let you be the Iceman. And I'm going to let the cat out of the bag.
Thank you. I need to know.
Well, the cat out of the bag is the other side of the story, because you're not supposed to tell someone when they're getting ribbed. But we were ribbing you back then, buddy.
What?
Yeah. So you showed up. Okay. So there's a couple things. I'm gonna finally let you in on this. You showed up, but we liked you. So how when people like you is when they rib you. Because if they don't rib you, They don't really like you. So you showed up and you told everybody you're the Iceman. You had this plan to be the Iceman, where I'm gonna be the Iceman, and without any communication between any of us, we all go, oh no, there's already a guy named the Iceman, which there was not. There's already a guy named the Iceman, so you can't be the Iceman. Sorry, which we were expecting to last a couple days, and then we'd let you be the Iceman. So then at the time, like I said, I had met TJ and Harry and all them through MSN. So we go back on MSN, and this part is important, even though it seems like a weird thing to say that this conversation happened on MSN. We got on MSN, and you had asked, well, who is the Iceman? What's this guy's real name? And I just wanted to make up a name. So I took Peter Parker and Logan Wolverine, and I combined the names, and I tried to say Peter Logan. But I spelled Logan wrong, and I said the guy's name is Peter Login, like when you log into your
login. Yeah.
I said Peter Logan is what I typed. I meant Peter Logan. Oh, okay. Peter Logan is already the Iceman. Sorry, dude. He's the Iceman, Peter Logan. Now we got to figure out who Peter Logan is. There's no one named Peter Logan in the world. So we go to the next show, and Lance Storm had a school in Calgary, and BJ's Gym was the other school in Calgary. They were sort of like rival dojos almost. They had a class, we had a class, they had a class. They were always producing students. We go to the next show, and there's a bunch of Lance Storm's students, and we go up to one of them, and we go, hey, you want to help us out with a rib? And this guy's name was Tom. I don't know if you ever learned his name was Tom.
Maybe Tom sounds familiar. It's ringing a bell.
His name was Tom, but we told him, we need you to pretend to be the Iceman and that your name is Peter Logan. And at first he said, no, I'm not going to do that. We finally twisted his arm enough, and he said, okay, I'll be the Iceman. And we said, no matter what you do, don't let this other guy get to be the Iceman. You're the Iceman first. And so I guess you guys had a conversation, and he said, I'm the Iceman. I'm going to wrestle as the Iceman. And you were like, well, I want to be the Iceman. And he said, you're the fake Iceman. Long story short, maybe 3 weeks later, he debuts in Stampede Wrestling as T-Bone. So
T-Bone, yeah.
T-Bone. He was T-Bone on
he was T-Bone, Tom Bone.
Yeah. So
that always, you know what, that always got my goat. It was always a crinkle in my neck. I was like, because it was such a colorful conversation we had.
Yeah.
And again, I'm 15 years old. Let's keep in mind here. I'm stepping up to these guys. I don't know what I'm stepping into, right? But oh man, that gives me a little relief. Because you know what? I don't know. I did not want that guy to be the Iceman. I didn't think he would have done it justice. Him and his T-bone, his raw meat. Get on the grill, brother. Come on. I'm the Iceman.
He wouldn't have done it. He wouldn't have done it justice. He was more of a T-bone looking guy than an Iceman.
Oh, he looked like he was a steak that got punched 8 times, brother.
I will say this. He was
tenderized.
I will say that.
No, I think he was a nice guy. He certainly he was pretty staunch on his Iceman position, put it that way.
How did that go? Did he get like mean to you? Like, was he?
Oh, dude. He's like, oh man. He's like, I'm the effing Iceman. You want to see what the effing Iceman's about? I'll end you, brother. Like it was literally like Ready to Rumble. He was like cutting the King promo, like, I will rule you, but he was like in an Iceman kind of way that he came up with. And I'm going like, I'm like, oh yeah, which I don't really know. And I don't even know at that point if it led me to, I don't know, come up with other monikers. As you know, I did. But, it was something else.
The Molson Canadian. Well, before we go any further, I want to let you know that at any time, if you wanted to use the Iceman, we would have really let you. We were just ribbing a little bit. And obviously, Tom was T-Bone at the time, so we felt like that would kind of put the message out that that obviously the Iceman was free to use up. But anytime you asked about it, we were always going to be like, no, you can't be the Iceman. No.
And you know, the beautiful thing is this, right? Is that I'll go to shows all the time now, and I'll run into one of our old friends, and they'll say Iceman, or they'll say, fake Iceman, the fake Iceman. And I'll look around. Who's calling me that? It was 15 years ago. Who's saying that, right?
That's hilarious.
I'm not fake. I need another Budweiser. You know?
That is hilarious, man. Wow. That is great. The fans and maybe the wrestlers in the at the show it's always nice when the wrestlers are heckling the guys in the audience, eh? You're going to the show.
I know.
You're going to the show and they're like, I'll get you, fake Iceman.
I was at a show like, I don't know, a year or 2 ago, and someone was ribbing me and going, Iceman. And so these kids came up to me. They thought I was a wrestler. So I was sitting in the back watching the show. I'm sitting in the back. They're calling me Iceman. So they asked me for an autograph. I signed an autograph for it. I said, keep reaching for the stars, brother, like I'm Hulk Hogan. Take it or leave it.
That's awesome.
These kids are going to go home because I got Iceman's autograph. He's just some bum in the back drinking a Budweiser. What is going on?
You're not a bum. Don't say that. Come on now. You could have signed it to Sodfather.
I know, but at that time, I just had to go with the Iceman. I had to get ice. It's been a 15-year labor of love to try and get the Iceman over.
Yeah.
And, you got to do it. So we're on step 2 here.
You finally signed your first autograph as the Iceman. So here we go, full circle. All those times that you wrote Iceman on your book, you finally got to sign it as an autograph to a fan.
You got to practice that stuff, you got to practice your autograph, right?
So do you want to let the audience know? This is basically a little bit of an impromptu show. We're trying to get the audience familiar with the Iceman. We're hoping that the Iceman will become a regular on the show. So we're telling a lot of personal stories. Normally we try to stick to stuff that everybody will know, but this is going to help the audience get to know you a little bit better. So in that,
there's a lot to know, brother.
You want to tell another embarrassing story about yourself?
Yes. Bring it on.
The other nickname that you wanted to go, and I don't know how much of this you remember, and before we get into this, I gotta remind everybody, you were only 15 years old so a lot of ideas that we had at 15 years old were, whatever. So
let me interrupt, and I'm sorry. I gotta interrupt. I was gonna preface this by saying I definitely do not remember as much of this as I probably should have. Not because I was living the Molson Canadian gimmick. I was just 15 years old. So I would love for you to enlighten me and let me know, because I was big on that. Like, I was hard on that Molson Canadian gimmick for a while, as I recall.
What do you recall about you pitching the idea of being the Molson Canadian in Stampede Wrestling?
I remember, I think I remember wanting to wear a cape and come out with Molson Canadian is what I remember. And look like a Molson Canadian can of beer, something of that nature, like a uniform. Something to do with my uncle. My uncle used to just slam Molson Canadians and just like get really upset because he'd bet on Hockey Night in Canada. One Saturday he'd bet for Montreal, and then Toronto would win. And then the next week he'd bet for Toronto, and Montreal would win. And he'd get so mad, and he'd just be so worked up. I go, that's the Molson Canadian.
Molson right Canadian. Well, what I remember you telling me is it seemed like it was a bit of a Stone Cold, like a tribute to Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think you said you were going to drink a lot of beer and you were going to get over by giving beer to the audience. You'd throw beer to the audience.
Yeah, you got to do that, man. Get them drunk. They'll cheer for you.
And we were kind of ribbing a little bit when we were shooting down the idea, but we also were being honest when we said, you can't throw beer to the audience. You just can't give beer. You don't know if you're giving it to someone underage. You don't know if you're giving it to someone that shouldn't be drinking. So we can't really let you, not that I had any say, but they're not going to let you throw beer to people in the audience. Plus, it's going to cost a fortune. Beer's pretty expensive.
Now, did I want to throw the beer in the audience? I feel like I wanted to pour drinks for people as I was coming out to the ring. Well, that's what I kind of remember. I'm just pouring. Put it in your cup. I'm pouring. I'm going Tom Cruise and cocktail.
Well, my recollection was you wanted to throw it to them. And once we shot that down, you said you wanted to throw bacon at everybody. Do you remember that?
It's Canadian bacon, right?
Yeah.
You had Jericho and Benoit back in the day. They were Canadian bacon. It was on the cover of WWF magazine at the time. I don't know.
You said you wanted to throw bacon, and then we said, okay, well, I guess you could give people bacon. That's whatever, I guess. And then,
well, I mean, hey, let's just say for all our viewers, everything else, who doesn't want free bacon?
Yeah,
it's in a capsule in a vacuum. It's really not that bad of an idea.
Not that bad of an idea. I would cheer for a wrestler.
Secondhand bacon is maybe not the most appetizing. Maybe third-hand bacon.
And then you went one step further. You said, "Then when I'm a heel," do you remember what you said you'd do?
No.
Do you want to know what you said you would do?
Yes.
You said you would throw raw bacon in their faces.
Yes. That's what you get. That's what you get, you dirty, unappreciative scoundrels. You don't get the cooked bacon. Let that raw bacon slap across your face and stick on you. Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
That's how you do it.
That was awesome. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun back then. And yeah. I always thought you would kind of do a little bit more in pro wrestling, though. You kind of found your own way in landscaping, though. You want to talk a little bit about that, though?
Well, it's funny how things happen, right? I kind of like one thing led to another. I just I made a decision. I was like 16. I played a lot of high-end football, high-level football. We were winning championships, in the midget level, which is now spring level.
Okay.
Ironically, I'm a head coach of a team at that level now in the community. But it was a lot of pressure. My family and I wanted, I wanted to wrestle, and I did.
Yeah.
I love it. To this day, I love it. Right? Obviously, you can see it in our interview here. But I really wanted to win in football too. And I love the team thing. And, it's kind of the same in a lot of ways. There's a lot of camaraderie there. And so, but I went to that, which I ended up breaking my ankle playing dodgeball, being a jackass in front of the ladies after my senior season. And I had to rehab, and that got me into coaching. And so when I started coaching, I had to have a career. So I couldn't go to university. I got into landscaping.
Yeah.
So before you know it, wrestling to football to landscaping was just like, boop, a transition, just like that in a span of about, I guess, 16 to 18. So 2.5 years.
That's awesome.
And I never looked back. So landscape is funny, though. I'm a bit of a character in the industry for us anyways, because I'm out there cutting Macho Man and Hulk Hogan promos about sod, which really shouldn't be that exciting. But let me tell you something, brother, it can be.
I love it. I love how I know you have the pro wrestling mentality and you apply that to marketing. You have the marketing, like you market in a pro wrestling fashion, this sod company. And I've seen you cut all these promos. They're incredible. They're super entertaining. You've got the gift of gab, and you're cutting these promos, and I love it. They're the most entertaining. And so you're out in Calgary, and I think you're even expanding all over Western Canada these days. Yeah.
Yeah, we're out in Edmonton as well. We actually have talks of going to Ontario. The head office of our supplier is there, and we've kind of, in a sense, like last year we were no one distributed or installed more sod or grass than us, and so we kind of feel like we have the rocket strapped to our backs in a sense, and head office wants us to kind of expand. And we have support of that, and head office for what I mean is head office for our suppliers. So if you can get a good price on giving people grass, then you're doing pretty good. So yeah, we're really looking at that, and I think they just see the marketability because I feel like we can market their product better, like in a lot of ways than even they can, because they have to work within a net. I can just go out there and act like a jackass and cut a wrestling promo, or I can do grass magic, which, by the way, you're the only one that got the inside joke that I did that grass magic, special effects magic thing. But it's all about having fun, and I think as we expand, it's just going to be more of an opportunity to keep making crazier videos and getting people talking about something, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to talk a little bit about some stuff in the news?
Let's do it.
You said you wanted to tear apart you wanted to give your review of AEW, the cage match. That was actually when I was trying to figure out what we were going to do for a show, I got a notification serendipitously on Facebook of you saying, "Hey, can I come on your show and talk about AEW?" Did you have anything you wanted to say about that?
Well,
pretty interesting War Games, blood and guts ending. We can say that.
Yeah, I think they got. There's a lot of blood, right? And that was great, and I think that harkens back to. That's the old school. And if you guys know anything about the old school Stampede Wrestling, you're going to see some serious stuff. And, but the blood and guts, I thought was in a couple of things let them down. And maybe that's just because of the being on network TV as opposed to it being a pay-per-view. And so I don't really want to get into that. That's stuff you're bound. But I think the guys all did such it was a really great put together match in my opinion, and the guys, man, it was exciting. To me, it's one of the best kind of War Games type matches for my flavor of wrestling. Mm-hmm. It wasn't too over the top, but it wasn't also too bland and safe. It was guys out there working their butts off and actually like giving it their all. I just had a lot of issues with the end of it. And the reason I had a lot of issues with the end of it is because I have a lot of issues with the end of a lot of things. You look at something, and this is production or whatever, who's in charge of this stuff. But, you look at like something like Saturday Night Live, you watch it now and you go, is that a joke? Is that a punchline? The skit just ends. You watch sitcoms, right? Like I used to love watching Roseanne back in the day. I used to identify with that blue collar family in the 90s. I try to watch the Connors now, and there's no jokes or punchlines. There's no little stuff or little details that kind of push you along or give you a nuance. And I find in wrestling, especially with AEW, in the last kind of big events that they've had, I found that there is a lot of money behind this and a lot of effort by the wrestlers to really make it work. And what really disheartens me is when the production and the cameras, the guys like putting it together, that it's put together with the little things missing. Because, you know, why was Ric Flair so great? Because he did the little things right. He knew how to get, he knew how to do one little thing and elicit an emotion. And it's just like a good comic or anything else. So the ending of that match, I think there was two things. First off, whoever was in charge of what happened where Jericho fell, you know, to me, that was really, really, really bad preparation on that. I didn't like that. It basically was like, it took all the, without getting, I'm not going to tear everything down, but I'm going to say it took away the illusion of the significance of the moment. Okay. And it was let down by the area in which he fell, but also the production and the camera value. And I know this from even my own videos, how you position your camera. Obviously, when my phone just melted, it makes a lot of difference, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, those things are just so important. It was like the finish to their other match. I mean, it's about the little things. When you do the little things right, no matter in life, like no matter whether you're wrestling or playing football or having a career, like as a general human being, you do the little things right, good things are gonna be good. But when you overlook that stuff, it just leaves an openness and it's like there's something missing. And I felt the end of the match, there was definitely something missing in terms of that. Now, and I know I'm yammering on, but I have some strong opinions, you know this on this, but I really felt like it would have made more sense for getting MJF over and getting and establishing more heat for his group. Is I would have had a scenario where he was threatening to do that to Jericho and having almost all of the inner circle come out, except for Shawn Spears and Sammy Guevara, right? And the Spanish God. And having what I would have had happen was I would have had him then throw Jericho off regardless. And I would have had the chairman locked in the ring with the Spanish God locked in there, where he gets his heat by taking just chair shot after chair shot on Sammy until he has to quit. To me, you're going to get a lot more heat on the group than what happened. But I do say I love MJF going, thank you at the end. That was good.
So basically everybody's got to come outside of the cage to try to save Jericho. And then there's two guys trapped inside and they're able to sort of, it's a fun idea.
Well, because you got to think about it, right? Shawn Spears has been kind of directionless. And he's got this chairman thing. And like, so how do you get him some attention? Well, like let him be the one that puts Sammy, who is, you know, kind of in the center pin of this anyways, let them beat Sammy into submission because Jericho's gone. Like let Inner Circle look like, you know, Jericho's a fearless leader taking the throw, but they're not going to give up. Like the impassioned promos that Jericho cut, which after all those promos, it just felt to me like the finish was a bit of a letdown. Anyways, that's my take.
Well, I thought it was, to be honest, I thought it was a creative way to protect someone from not giving up. But, and forgive me if I'm mistaken, but didn't Shawn Spears already give up already? Like, I know it didn't count because the match hadn't sort of officially began or whatever, but to me, if you're going to figure out a way to protect somebody from taking a fall, it doesn't make sense to have them submit in a way that doesn't count. You know what I mean? Like it's
well, but imagine the guy that gave up before the match coming back in and being the one that causes the give up on the other side.
That's a smart way to do it, actually. Now that you say it like that, is if he's gonna
that's heat.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, if he submits and he finds a underhanded way to win, that is heat. That's a great idea. I could have got behind that. And like I said, if the threatening to throw Jericho off the cage, Jericho doesn't submit, but his partners they surrender. that's an interesting way to protect everybody in the match. But if you've already got a guy who's given up earlier in the match, it doesn't really protect anyone because somebody's already given up. It's just, I don't know.
Well, so my thoughts were like, why don't you have Jericho as this leader in a Braveheart style fashion before the match, say, no matter what happens to me, the inner circle goes on. They get in that situation, the match is still going on, and everybody gets pulled out, but nobody gives up yet. He throws Jericho off the top. Now they're attending to Jericho, except, oh my God, Sammy's stuck in the ring. He's locked in the ring, and now he's getting bashed with a chair. And he's he has forced to give up, basically, right? To me, I guess, again, my flavor of wrestling, it's all personal taste, and I'm not some national wrestling guy. I'm just a fan. That's to me, creatively, I thought that would have been a really cool concept, I guess you could say.
I like it. I think it'd be interesting to see. I would have checked it out. So let me ask you this: have you seen the recent A&E Macho Man documentary?
I did. I was under a couple White Claws, and I loved everything. Because you know what I like. You know what I love to do Sunday nights. WWE hasn't really been able to have this, like, since they've been doing like the Stone Cold, the Macho Man, and recently the Booker T. Yeah. To me, there's a lot more special feel to that. Even the Lost Treasures stuff they do, a lot more special feel to things than, some of the kind of B-show pay-per-views, right? Mm-hmm. I've been really excited. And the Roddy Piper too, sorry. The Roddy Piper was awesome. But the Macho Man was a little different. They went a little hard on Macho. Yeah. Hey?
They had an interesting angle because it's funny because they got to a lot of the Elizabeth stuff and they almost act like they're not going to say anything. They sort of put it out there. They say some people thought he was a little bit controlling, but maybe that was just the character. I don't know. And then they sort of brush over it. And then they get into the Gorgeous George stuff and then they go hard. Like they foreshadow with Elizabeth and they say, it could be there. Maybe it's not. I don't know. And then they sort of try to almost confirm it and double down and make it so much worse with the Gorgeous George stuff where she's going like he had a camera hidden in my house and stuff like this.
Right?
Yeah.
I never really, at that time, I was never, like, at that time in Macho's career, I was not really watching any WCW or anything like that, right? I was always a WWF guy at that point. Kind of made my choice at that point. But, when you see that stuff, and, it's weird that they did it the way they did. They kind of, they waited to that point, and then they really made him look really bad. And, even in Dark Side of the Ring, I don't think they touched on stuff like that. And so it just kind of makes you think, maybe it was a little overdone to make him, which he really shouldn't, because, the guy is iconic in wrestling. And, there's a certain thing where I think there's a lot of wrestlers that have done a lot of stuff that probably was not very good, but to frame it like that, I didn't think was maybe as tasteful as it could have been. I don't know.
No, I didn't think it was very tasteful at all. And I thought, I don't know. I don't know. Like I had never heard any of that Gorgeous George stuff. I knew that he owned the Gorgeous George gimmick. Do you know how he owns the Gorgeous George gimmick? Do you know the story behind that?
No.
There's a lot of it's a little bit of one internet rumor sort of seems to confirm another. So I don't know for sure, but the rumor that I had always heard was that Randy Savage had used that Pomp and Circumstance theme song. You know his theme song?
Yes.
Like the graduation song?
Yes.
Well, yeah. The original person that had always used it was Gorgeous George. Gorgeous George had came out to that song in the past.
That's right.
And when Randy Savage died, he said, please don't play. My last request is not to play that at my funeral because I always felt bad that I had stolen it from Gorgeous George. When he was in WCW, apparently he had purchased the rights to the Gorgeous George gimmick, maybe to sort of make himself feel better about having used that without any permission. So he purchased it off of, I guess, Gorgeous George's, George Wagner's widow. And what he had planned on doing was have Lanny Poffo, his brother, who he had gotten a contract.
Leaping Lanny.
Yeah, Leaping Lanny, who is a Calgary resident, born in Calgary. I don't think he was raised in Calgary, but he was born in Calgary. But he had purchased the rights for that so that Lanny could dye his hair blonde and come out on WCW and do the Gorgeous George gimmick. Instead, they benched Lanny Poffo. They paid him out. I guess Randy Savage's contract completely covered the cost of Lanny Poffo's contract because of his Slim Jim deal. And they included
Snap into one.
There you go. There you go. So they included him.
Snap into a Slim Jim.
They benched Lanny Poffo, and he used the name Gorgeous George with this girl that he was seeing, and kept the music for himself. And there we go. The rest is history.
Yeah. I mean, it was very telling, like all that stuff. Like it's something that really I don't think has been talked about lots, right? It was pretty revealing, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's why you watch, right? And that's why these things have been really, really good.
Yeah.
Even the Roddy Piper 2 was really good. It's just one of these things. I don't know why. In my opinion, I don't care what kind of stuff that the WWE has done. I just feel like he's always been, the Macho Man's always been kind of destined to, because WWE is heavily into producing these A&E things, right? And so, just feels like for whatever reason, there's always going to be hurt feelings for him not just taking it on the chin and going to commentary and whatever other rumors are out there. Just feels like he's destined to, they'll do a little bit of good for him and then they'll bury him, and then they'll do a little bit of good for him and then they'll bury him. It's a shame for a guy who had such a great career.
Yeah, it's true. They're sort of holding a grudge even beyond the grave. And you're right. They do enough to say, oh, no, we're the good guys. But then they fucking bury him a little bit. And then, no, we're cool with him. And then they bury him a little bit more, It's a shame. All right. So, sorry. I thought I might have lost your connection there for a second. So
I'm still here.
I got one more story here. I mentioned it. Caitlyn Jenner has come out against trans athletes. I thought you would be a great person to ask about this. I know you're very into athletics. You know a lot about football. You coach football. Caitlyn Jenner, of course, was an Olympian, won the Olympics as Bruce Jenner, and then transitioned into a female, is now saying, even though they are transgender, that they do not believe that transgender athletes should be competing with, transgender female should be competing with a born female athlete. Do you have any thoughts on this? What do you?
I do have thoughts on it, and I mean, let's be clear. I mean, people are not liking what she has to say, but let's just be clear. She's been on the Wheaties box and she's always had gorgeous locks. So she's got it all, and she knows, right? Come on. Who else is she has a very unique perspective on this.
That she does.
Here's the thing. She knows better than anybody what it takes to be a high-end athlete. And I think the fact of the matter is that I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with her opinions on this. I think they're uncomfortable even with her conservative stance in terms of political stuff now. And I think it's really, it's making a lot of waves, and people don't know how to react. But in this regard, and this is not exactly a new topic with transgender athletes, at least from what I've read and what I've seen over the years. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is this, okay? There's nothing against, there's nothing to, I'm all for it. I know people of every orientation and all that stuff and how they identify. I 100% support all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. How you identify is your own business, and you have every right to do it. And I support you for it. I love you for it. But here is the thing. We're not talking about how you identify. We're talking about athletic competition. Athletic competition in its, very nature is almost like a more of a brutal physical altercation, right? So let's talk about this. No matter what you identify as, when you are born, if you are born a male and you grew up for 18 years as a male and you are an athletic male and you have developed these things, you identify as a female now. Well, no, the thing about athletics is there's a word called parity, okay? And parity means it's apples to apples in terms of competition. We want even playing ground, and may the best person win. Well, look, from a biological standpoint, in a genetic standpoint, there is therapy for this, which is wonderful and all that good stuff when you're transitioning. But if you grew up for 20 years pumping iron and you have the male genetics and you have the V shape and you have all of these different muscles that you've developed, your muscle memory, these twitch muscles, it is different than what happens with females. And that's just basic genetics. So, you can't just become 22 years old and decide you're going to go take on, you as someone who was for 20 years of your 22 years of your life is trained as a male. I think that it's not an insult. It's just a simple fact that you're genetically different. So and it's not an insulting thing, right? Listen, if you're an orange, you get an apple and an orange, and your orange, at some point decides it wants to be an apple, so he goes red. That's fine. I know it sounds really bad. I don't want to rock the boat here, but when you bite into the apple, you think it's an apple, but it's going to taste like an orange. And so on the inside, these are just things that have to be weighed, right? No one's taking away any rights or freedoms for people that want to live live their lives how they want. But there is something to be said about this on the lowest level, the common denominator of what exactly is parity in athletic competition.
That's fair. Well, another thing that I think when I think about these things is, why is there a girls' league and a boys' league? There is a difference between girls and boys, and you can say that the hormones make things equal, but there's a lot of people that aren't sure about that. If Brock Lesnar, for instance, were to transition to female and compete in MMA, I mean, that this guy who's got hands too big for UFC gloves is going to dominate. It's been said is if LeBron James transitioned into female, does he have to compete in the WNBA where he's gonna win every game? I hate to say it, but there's plenty of female athletes that'll say, female and male athletes are different, and there are, there's a reason. I don't know. There's a reason that we have these different leagues, and if we're going to blur those lines, you almost just say, well, then maybe there should just be one league. And in that case, a lot of females are going to miss out. So you have to think about these things. And I think we're kind of on the same page on it here.
Well, I mean, the thing is, right, Andrew's like, okay, let's talk inclusivity, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can't include a group at the detriment of another group.
Sure.
That takes away from the value of including everybody.
Exactly.
And you're right. I mean, if Brock Lesnar wants to transition and grow out a weave, then that all more power to him. I don't want to ever step in his way to do it, for that way. But I'm just saying, it's like Brock Lesnar, it's not going to be the same. And so, and it's from an athletic standpoint, at least for me as well, it's more so from a safety standpoint. Okay. Sure. I gotta say, as we're talking about Macho Man and all this other stuff, I mean, South Park did a pretty funny episode on a guy that was kind of like Macho Man. He was transitioning to the women's competition, but they made a good point.
What's that?
It's like, okay, the point is this, okay? You can't just, all of a sudden decide, not for your own self, but if you're a male and you want to be a female, or that's how you identify, you've always been that way, that's fine. You cannot reasonably expect to just start competing in female athletics and not think it's outrageous.
Yeah.
Because it is outrageous. It's not fair. No. And the idea, again, is parity. Apples to apples, right? So, I mean, I don't know. And that may sound harsh. I don't think it is. I just think it's reasonable. I dare you to say that I've never seen any actual athlete ever say, oh, well, yeah, this is like really a good idea. Because no, again, you got Brock Lesnar in there with a female MMA fighter. I don't care what weight her is she super weight or not. He's got 30 years of built up muscle memory, genetics, again, that would devastate the genetics of a female body. And that's not exactly right. So more power to you. But when it comes to athletics, things have to be in a more quantifiable and measurable form.
I agree 100%. I think that if a person wants to transition and change their identity, I agree with that 100%. But once they start competing with somebody else. There's got to be. I mean, we don't allow testosterone replacement therapy for male-born athletes, so it's strange to allow it for a transitioning athlete too, right? I mean, it's a performance enhancing drug. We know that. So it's just a lot of questions. A lot of hormone manipulation is not generally allowed in a lot of these situations. And then we're making an exception for a transgender athlete, right? I mean, it's maybe.
But here's the thing, Andrew, and this is something that needs to be discussed. When I think, and this might sound bad, but when you have to look at each individual case of maybe when you transitioned. If you transitioned when you were 13, 14 years old, and you've grown up in that situation, that's a little bit different than someone who's 30 and transitioning, as harsh as that sounds. And I'm not comparing that to anything else other than athletics. But if you transition that, like my mom watches this show, or she did, whatever. There's a show of this chick on TLC. She, wasn't born a male, but I think she's been transitioned since she was maybe 13, 14. If she's doing athletics from that standpoint, I don't think there's an issue as she goes on. Right? But I do think if you've built up all of this other stuff within you for 20 years, I think there has to be something there that is has to be decided on. I really do. Right.
I think I agree. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much all I've got. Do you have any other stories you're interested in talking about tonight, or just happy to be on for now, and maybe we'll get into a little bit more later?
I'm happy to be on, and again, I apologize for the phone melting down. We got Iceman Part 1, Iceman Part 2. I mean, now we know. I glad you accept me as finally identifying as the Iceman.
You're
very important
the
for me.
Iceman.
And no offense, right? So,
to be honest, we all knew you were the Iceman all along.
Well, you know what? I will say this. We'll get into this again because I'd love to be back on. But, I really hope people watch this because you're a really good guy. And some of the stuff we talked about tonight are some really cherished memories of myself, hold very dear. And to be able to chat with you now is something really special. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully having me back on.
Yeah, man.
And getting to chat. Yeah,
man, you're welcome anytime you want to do this. Honestly, when I first started doing this, I had a long list of people that I noticed were starting to get into social media, and I had been doing it for a while. And I made a short list of people that I would like to do this with, and your name was one of the top of the lists, along with Jean-Marc and a few other people. There was a short list of people, but there was a list, and just when I was thinking okay, something's going on with Jean-Marc. I'm not here to judge. I don't want to whatever. He's got his situation. What are we doing with the show? Right as that's happening, serendipitously, I get a notification from one of the people on that list that I was thinking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is awesome. This is going to give us an opportunity to reconnect, and we can all have a good time. And I'd love to have you back on, and we can hopefully do this as often as possible. And thanks for coming on, man. I'm going to stop the stream, and thanks everybody for watching.